Will the abstinence-based approach even work with sex and porn addiction? It's something that I often ask myself all the time, and frankly, my opinion is no, and I think the data is here to support that. For those of you who go to 12-step groups, there isn't a ton of sobriety in those groups. And often the people who are claiming to be sober, how sober are they actually, right? I think that's the challenge with sex and porn addiction is there's a bit of a gray area there with some people's definition of sexual sobriety. And I think it's that gray area that is important to talk about because it makes things a bit blurry when we're going to use abstinence-based philosophies to treat a problem. So what do I mean by abstinence-based philosophies? It's kind of the 12-step philosophy, which, the sex and porn addiction field kind of has copy and pasted substance addiction practices and principles and moved it over to sex and porn addiction. And I just don't think you can do that because I think the two addictions are quite different. And I don't know if abstinence is going to work necessarily within the sex addiction field. What I mean by that is when you look at process addictions like sex and porn addiction or even anorexia and bulimia or other eating disorders, they're linked to biological needs that we have as human beings. We need food as humans. We need food and we're always going to need food. Similarly, we need sex. We're always going to need sex. It's how humans will continue to thrive as a species is by at least replacing our population, if not growing the population through sex and having children. And so we're not going to be able to remove these desires. And I think that's why largely we see such poor results when it comes to process addictions. This is something that isn't popular to talk about because I don't think guys, especially our wives, the betrayed partners, this is things that they don't want to hear, right? The shocking statistic of 31 to 34% of men are able to recover successfully. That means that essentially 70% of guys are having a significant relapse inside of 5 years. And I don't believe that this is because sex addiction recovery is hard. I don't believe that. I believe that we're applying principles such as abstinence-based principles to a area of compulsivity where you can't just say stop. I don't know if that's going to, well, I do know. I don't think it's going to work. When you tell a male in the United States in 2024 to stop finding women attractive, stop objectifying them, stop, again, I don't know if stop is going to work. Now, let me kind of clarify here. Do these behaviors need to stop? Absolutely. If you're going to be in a monogamous and committed relationship and that's what you want for yourself, which is kind of the lifestyle that I've chosen, then these behaviors absolutely need to stop. But I think the abstinence approach, I'm not sure if that's going to be the answer. Here's what I mean by that is inherently sexual desires, sexual attraction, sexuality, inherently there's nothing wrong with it. Meaning that wanting to have sex or express yourself sexually, as long as the two people are consenting, meaning that they know everything about what's happening sexually, they've been educated around it, it is a consenting, adult, mindful decision. As long as these two individuals consented, there's nothing inherently wrong, right? What's wrong is lying. A lot of guys within this, 40% of the guys in my groups are shockingly, they're actually single, believe it or not, but 60% of them are married. And that was where they really went wrong was for the married guys, they hid these behaviors from their wife. They lied. They were deceptive around what they were doing. They did not give their wife all of the information. And that's abuse. It's integrity abuse, right? Where you are intentionally withholding life-altering information from your partner. And that's not fair. It's a total violation of your marital agreement. She has every right to want to leave you if that's what she's going to choose to do. You didn't hold up your end of the bargain. But again, back to kind of the abstinence piece of it. Inherently, was there anything humanly, biologically, scientifically wrong with what you did? As long as the two individuals were consenting? No. It was the line that was wrong. And then for my single guys, they don't have a marriage that they're necessarily trying to lie or deceive or protect. A lot of those guys, when they joined our recovery groups, they were just acting out of character. They did not want to look at porn as much as they were looking at. They did not want to be paying to sleep with women, paying sex workers, going to massage parlors, hiring sugar babies. These were things that they did not want to do. And they were doing them and they couldn't seem to find a way to stop, right? So, really the issue at hand is violating your morals and values, or are you lying or deceiving someone that you're married to? But again, back to the abstinence-based principle. If we're just going to say, hey, don't want to do that, I'm not sure that's going to work because I don't know if you're ever going to necessarily not want to do that. I don't think that anyone is debating whether you're going to stop finding someone who meets your particular arousal template arousing. I don't think anyone's telling you that that's going to go away. It might, and that'd be cool if it would go away because I think being sober and recovery would be a lot easier. But I would be open to the idea that it might not go away. That type of person or type of persons might always be arousing arousing to you. But again, the question isn't, are you aroused or are you not? The question isn't, do I have some sexual desires? Do I have some sexual thoughts? That I don't think necessarily that's what's up for debate, because I really don't think that anyone expects those thoughts or desires to necessarily completely go away. The question is, are you going to continue acting on those or are you not, right? And if you're in a committed relationship that is chosen to be monogamous, are you going to be able to honor that? And are you going to be able to be honest with your partner and with yourself about your needs in that category? But again, telling somebody not to, I don't know if that's going to be successful. And that's some of my criticism with the sex addiction field, is there is this kind of faith-based, abstinence-based philosophy of don't do that, that's wrong, this is bad, people who do this are bad. And I think that approach is, it's broken, to be honest. That's my honest assessment of it. Is I don't think there's any data to support that this makes you a bad person. I don't think this is weird. I think that this makes a ton of sense. We live in one of the most hypersexual times we've ever been able to be alive. If you're a male in 2024 in the United States of America, women are objectified in probably every way possible. And so if you've been affected by that, which all guys probably have to some degree, it doesn't make you a freak or weird. It makes you a product of the country that you live in and the society that you live in. But again, it doesn't excuse your behavior. So when we're back to kind of the topic of discussion, which is, does abstinence-based practices work? Can you just put blockers on your phone? Is that real recovery? Is that real sobriety? And will that actually work, or will your addict brain just take that on as a challenge of trying to find a new way to get around the blockers? Will the whole philosophy of you going to 12-step and having this, hey, we're powerless, here I am, there's nothing I can do about this compulsivity, I can't believe this is what I did, that approach gonna work? Or are you gonna have these same sexual desires and sexual interests, and do you need to learn how to keep these things from interrupting your life? Do you need to change the actual thought processes so that you don't necessarily compulsively engage with them, or that they're not intruding on your life and kind of stealing your presence from you, so you can't be present in a life that you actually want to live that will lead to a legacy that you're proud of, versus these series of self-destructive behaviors? Are you kind of seeing the difference here? I think abstinence has its place when it comes to substances. I really do. I think you can tell someone, hey, you don't need alcohol or cocaine or heroin to survive. And I think that might work, because the truth is they actually don't need those substances to survive. However, to come to somebody and say, hey, you don't need sex, you don't need the external validation, there's truth to that. Do you need sex in the way, do you need a blowjob? No, you don't need a blowjob. Do you need attention from people outside of yourself? No, you don't need to be validated. But again, it's not as black and white. Do you not need cocaine, heroin, and these various drugs? Yeah, you actually scientifically, biologically don't need those things to survive. But do we need validation? Okay, yes, maybe not sexually. I would say that being appreciated, admired, and respected are human needs. We know this psychologically. And so do you see the approach? The approach is to change the chosen methods, not stop. And that is why I think guys find themselves relapsing quite often, is the approach is stop, cut this out, don't do this anymore. Whereas I think because these are process addictions and not substance addictions, we actually have to diagnose and kind of look at, okay, hey, what are the processes that we are getting validated by these various behaviors? And is there a superior substitute? The answer is always yes. It's always yes when it comes to sex and external validation. We know that these are not the only ways to get these human needs met. And we have to substitute them out for another ones. And not just substitute, they need to be better. They need to be superior substitutes. If I want to be validated, I'm going to want that validation. I need to find something better than sexual validation. I need to find something superior. And the truth is, there's a lot of things out there that will validate you in really deep and meaningful ways. Sex is honestly not that effective compared to some of the other ones. But the topic of discussion is, are you using an abstinence-based approach, and is it working for you? Is no and punishments and blockers and is that approach effective? Or is it just a temporary Band-Aid, kind of leading to some temporary sobriety? But is that actually going to lead to a full recovery where you actually don't want to use these strategies anymore because you've sold yourself on better ones, right? And I think that's the question that we all need to ask ourselves is, am I leaning on an abstinence-based philosophy, and is that ever going to actually work with the actual processes that I've become compulsively addicted to?